first on this program, so you never forget, David. You may own the image, but I am. It's just a reflection of me, David. Just remember,
Ryan,
a
if
reflection.
you're trying to start a mutiny, I wish you luck. But here we are on
I
the
will just cut
show.
the cord, David. I'll just cut all your cords, and then you'll have to buy wireless. I will
The weekly show,
hire people to cut cords.
the weekly show that happens daily, live. And as always, everyone hit in the chats. Myself, CEO, COO, CFO, Dave, Ryan, the
CCTV.
co-host, and we have with us another guest 2 days in a row. Guest after guest after guest. Guest, introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are and why you're here.
Especially Ryan, because I don't know.
My name's Nick Zaselski. I am, what don't I do? So I am a organizer for the Mises Caucus in Pennsylvania, chair of my county party. I ran for state treasurer this past year, founder of the Bitcoin Caucus, a big-time Bitcoin guy. And
I didn't know that.
we're
gonna have to talk about cryptocurrency now. Ryan, you're gonna get left in the dust.
You got 2 hours. No, I know, dude. Hey, I got people, dude. Fuck off, Dave. I swear to God, I will drive down to Pennsylvania today.
And then finally, co-host of Liberty Libations on the Peaceful Sea Network, which is Thursdays at 8:00. I'm actually not on tonight. It's my night off. So after this, head over there and check that show out. It's always a good time. Great way to relax.
Amazing.
That is awesome. How do you find that? How does everyone get there?
Yeah, so you can go to on YouTube, Rumble, It's the Peaceful Sea Network. You could also visit
Peaceful
the website,
Sea.
Peaceful Sea,
like the
Peaceful SEA. And I believe that's peacefulsea.network would be the website, I believe, where you can join the Dollar Media Club and help contribute. You get access to the documentaries put out by Peaceful Sea, a lot of shows, special episodes of shows and things like that, all kinds of goodies, and we're trying to build out more there.
Well, listen, I'm all for building, and who knows what we can talk about as COO, CFO, and CEO of December 1773. I don't know. Maybe we can talk some form of co-op or something to try to build off of each other. But
I swear to God.
Listen,
this
Ryan,
is where this came from, Dave. Dave, we get Mike Tremont on, and it goes to Dr. Mike Tremont on, and it goes to your head. No, it just goes to show some respect. I interfered in the foreign election, David, not you, okay? Enough of this. I'm so tired of you taking all my credibility. And then you get on these famous, amazing people. I'm supposed to sit here in the dust while you talk cryptocurrency, while you count your 600,000s. This is unfair, David. Rent is too damn high. David is a tyrant. I want a contract negotiation. I'm going to go straight to Crowder. I'm going to Crowder, dude. I'll just go to your. I will go to your mentor.
Good luck. You know what? Go to Daily Wire. I hear they're doing great over there, Ryan.
Yeah, they probably need new talent.
Their CEO, unlike
they do have smaller beanies than
Ryan. Unlike our CEO here at December 1773, their CEO stepped down and definitely wasn't forced out because of bankruptcy. He stepped down to focus on the entertainment and the brand. Okay, Ryan.
Oh. A lot of entertainment going on over there.
Well, here's the thing: we're full steam ahead, and our show is entertainment, so we don't have a separate entertainment sector. We just are entertaining. That's the key. That's the real key, truthfully.
David, I am entertaining. Okay, let's fucking be honest here.
Okay, so go Peaceful Sea. Peaceful Sea, is that like sea, like SEA, like you're in the ocean?
SEA, yes.
Perfect. Yeah. He said that if you're paying attention.
You don't worry about
CFO, my fucking ass, dude. I'm going to invite this whole podcast.
But we've got some, there's some good documentaries up there available for Dollar Media Club members. So there was a documentary put out when Shane Hazel was running, because I was down in Georgia previously. So I was kind of a part of that. And our founder and leader, Jake's done documentaries. That there's one from over in Lebanon and some other stuff. So he's...
Well, that's pretty serious. I mean, that's we're talking global stuff at this point.
Yeah, and then the latest project that's really going off over there is called The Cascade Effect, which is kind of a foray into the true crime, but instead this time it's kind of investigating a cop that killed someone, in Montana, and
Listen, you're speaking all my
seems
languages. You've touched on cryptocurrency. You're touching on true crime.
yeah.
I
So
feel like I'm in the wrong place. I feel like I belong at Peaceful Sea.
so they've got
So,
there's good
so
things
they
going
produce
on
all
there.
the film, produce, write all these documentaries.
Yeah, our lead, the guy who kind of founded it all, Jake, who's kind of started everything with this. He's a filmmaker. That's what he does, and a bunch of other stuff. But he styles himself as a filmmaker. So he's done a couple of these documentaries. Like the Lebanon one was like music based, and he's done a couple other ones like that, I believe. And then we did the one following Shane Hazel and his run for governor, Divide and Dominate: How the Powerful Steal More Power. And then and then he's kind of slowly started to grow this into it. He started with like doing a podcast for the Libertarian Party of Georgia, and then one night he decided he was going to do a live stream where we just kind of hang out and talk about the news and whatever. And I hopped on that night, and then we're I think 120-ish episodes in at this point.
Okay, so
sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Sounds
interesting.
familiar.
Peaceful Sea Network.
Yeah.
You want to pull it up,
I see
Dave?
black and gold, so I have a feeling I'm on the right side. Well, that's what I'm doing. Listen, I am the content officer, Ryan, so I'm one step ahead of you already.
When you walk out of the studio, I hope you don't smash your head on your ego on the fucking door frame. Okay.
All right, this looks like the right place. I'm assuming this has all the signs.
Yep.
Wait. Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, can you see my screen or no? Rumble. This right. Okay, I guess this is the place. Head on over here, and then what do you do? You can go here at 8:00 tonight, and
8
I'm
o'clock
assuming
tonight.
is there a link for the podcast right there? Perfect.
Yeah, right on that next broadcast, you've got the links to YouTube, X, Rumble, whatever you want to watch on. So,
yeah, Rumble, definitely Rumble. I'm a big fan. We're on YouTube and X too, but here's the thing. I'm sure as well as anybody, you say the wrong thing on YouTube, you ain't on YouTube.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Ryan got us kicked off. There was a hot New Zealander running for I don't know, president. Does New Zealand have presidents?
David, if she were to just dress like a conservative woman, I wouldn't know if she was hot or not. I'd be more worried about her policies, David, not her taking her clothes off.
Ryan accidentally somehow interfered in their election. In an episode. Good. Yeah, in an episode that we didn't mention New Zealand or elections. So figure that out. But that's what YouTube told us. Interfering in foreign elections of New Zealand.
Interesting. Yeah. We've also seen that there's a lot of, like, I guess, organic traffic that comes off of Rumble. We seem to get a decent number of views there that just people, randomly it pops higher. So at least
it generates new leads better.
Well, isn't that interesting that the algorithm actually works at Rumble?
Yeah, we also have a 24/7 stream where it just pulls random shows from the network and plays them.
That's cool.
That's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. That's a great idea, David. That's a great idea.
Interesting. Here's what I can tell already.
Is fucking right, David.
Here's
CEO, CFO. Oh, what's your website's name? Oh yeah.
Here's the thing, and there's levels to this shit, okay? Clearly, I outrank Ryan when it comes to IT ability, but clearly they are way advanced compared to me. So that's just part of what you get.
Do you guys pay a guy for that, or is that all in-house stuff? Like you got
I think Jake's the one who's managing the whole thing. I haven't dug too far into the back rooms on how he's getting it done, but he figures out how to get stuff done and gets it done. So maybe he paid someone to put it up, but he's trying to make it he's trying to be as legitimate as possible. So
well, it looks very legit. So good job everybody over there.
Cheers.
Yeah. You had mentioned too, if anyone like I have said, I've put this broad invite over to everyone in that libertarian group, and I said, if anyone ever wants to come on the show, hit me up. You're more than welcome to. I told John yesterday he's welcome on the show anytime he wants to come on. anyone over there at Dollar Media Club, if they ever want to come on, they're more than welcome to. We're open for everybody.
Yeah, I let them know already. Said anyone who wants to hop on, let me know. So I'll let you know if they whoever gets back and when. So
yeah, no rush. Whenever anyone wants to come on, they're more than welcome to. Ryan's on. He's locked into a contract that he doesn't know that he signed. We used AutoPen, so
smart.
Whole government is ran by fax machines.
All right, we got introductions out of the way. Here's the deal, Ryan.
CFO.
What do you think of John yesterday, Ryan?
I love that guy. I don't know why. He's just honestly, the what was it, the law thing, his whole thing about the spirit of the law, that was very kind of cool, like very informational actually. It's not that we're not here to learn or something, it's not like we know everything, obviously. But that guy's older, he has grandchildren, just the way he approaches life is different. He got 90,000 votes as a senator, correct? That's impressive, like for anybody,
Yeah.
It's not about comparison or whatever, but when you really think about how much shit you can leave on the table some days, and then you hear like, you bump into some people and you meet some Dr. Mike Tremont. He talked about when we had him on, he was a police officer for 20 years or something before he really got into other public service as far as politics and everything else. And it's just interesting. These people, you always like top performers keep top performing, and it's just cool. And long story short, more than anything, just having access to people like that, no one being able to reach out to him, Dave. You're more of the networking guy, but more than anything, I think it's just cool to get that older perspective from an older guy about politics. Because when you start really talking to the older guys, that's where I've actually learned more about politics than anything else, and that's why it's so important to have the elders in the space. Actually,
Nick, what and when got you into libertarianism?
Oh, geez. It's a little bit of a, a little bit of this, a
9/11.
little bit of that.
9/11.
Yeah, no. It was, there were pieces that kind of started, I think back in college. I had a roommate at one point who ended up getting into Bitcoin. And then that led into the Federal Reserve. So he was explaining that to me at one point, and it was like, what are you talking about? And then I had a professor go in and basically say the same thing just a couple of weeks later. So I was like, okay, that's something. But you're in school, you're busy. Didn't have too much time there. We ended up with in an incident at one point later that year that really drove a lot of distrust towards the cops. Also, there was a rumor, more or less, that was started about my fraternity there, about sending explicit pictures of female students without their permission or something around on our internal emails or whatever, and that didn't happen. But
Allegedly.
no, that was not going on. And so, but regardless, the cops basically, from what I understood, were like, you're going to basically told the fraternity president, you're going to turn over all the you're going to give us access to everything, or the school's going to take action so you can't get into the medical school or this or that. So basically, like, it was this strong arm using the campus police that they pay to kind of just enforce this. And it was like, that's fucked up. And then we had to live the rest of the year like unable, not allowed to socialize with each other. The house was like cops walking through to check and make sure nobody's socializing, because there was still food being served there. So we still there, people, I live there, other people live there. So it was like kind of living under a police occupation a little bit. And they tried to be nice, but it was also like, well, fuck you. So there was distrust there. And then as you get into the real world a couple years later, and 2016 election politics back on my mind, I'm working it, so I started going down some trails there, and one of the guys I worked with turned me on to Tom Woods, and it's kind of been history ever since.
So the classic story, a little bit of distrust about, the police state while you were in college.
There was a little bit there, yeah. Like, basically, like I said, like they didn't find anything. There was nothing there, besides the fact they were like, "Well, that counts as hazing, so we're kicking you guys off anyway." But
Well,
you know,
just imagine, and it'd be interesting how many libertarians get created, but just imagine living here on a green card. You say something bad about Israel, and next thing you know, you're on a flight back.
yeah, I know. Not even saying something bad about this country; it's saying something bad about some other country that I don't give a shit about.
It'd be it's interesting to say the least, but you know, I'm not one of these people that subscribe to the Jews control the world kind of thing, but it does get a little difficult when that kind of policy takes head. It's like, well, how the fuck do you defend that? You can't.
Yeah, yeah. What? Why them? Why just them? Why is it focused there? That's always the most the biggest thing. Like, what do these guys have? And I mean, we know what Jeffrey Epstein was running around, and that he was connected with Mossad and Ghislaine Maxwell, and what her father, openly was associated with those guys, and so it was, it's like they've got to have something
Well, that
on
guy
you.
definitely killed himself, so we're good.
Yeah, just like Virginia Giuffre, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not like she
Found
had
dead.
she was found dead with 2 gunshot wounds in the back then. It's not like she had any information about,
Dragged into a pond.
Epstein or the royal family or, all these things. It's
Yeah, just a
interesting too.
prince. Just a prince, David. No worries.
Yeah, the brother of the king over there, and
Yeah, no, their power is all symbolic, just ask Ben Shapiro, right?
Symbolic power just has the most powerful funeral ever. Pope died with $17 in his bank account. Just had a $7 billion fucking death ceremony, though. Super poor Pope, though.
What do you think? I've heard this question asked a lot of. Obviously, as libertarian, you were neither a Kamala fan nor a Trump fan. But what do you think so far of the first 100 days of Trump in office here?
the first half of it was looking pretty good, and now we've kind of hit a bit of a backslide. Um, I'm still on this whole wait and let's see what goes on. There were some good instincts coming through at first, but it seems like maybe the powers that be got their hooks back in and are doing whatever they want again. You've mentioned the Israel stuff, the bombing what's it called, Yemen. This, are they playing a war games, with Iran right now? Or is that something we actually have to worry about them doing? It's kind of like we've been dealing with this Iran's a nuclear, a threat to get a nuclear weapon thing for 30 plus years now, and it hasn't happened, and they're not the ones, invading other countries or messing around in other parts of the world. So it's kind of like, I don't know what this, so, I don't know the hostilities there. I mean, we've still got the whole Russia Ukraine thing going on. I don't know what's going on there, but it seems like the rhetoric on that's all over the place. Zelensky's bad. Now it's, coming out as strong against Putin. And so maybe something comes up there. It's always hard. Trump's negotiating strategy, I don't know if it's partially just bumbling into it or actually just playing, this strong game, and sometimes things work. I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't, it started off strong with Doge and cutting and a whole bunch of stuff, starting to cut the stuff. But it seems like ever since that congressional budget where they were like, oh, we're just going to keep everything funded until September, including the USAID stuff. It seems like since that point, things have kind of started to go downhill.
Of course, Thomas Massey came out against it, as he should have. And, that was kind of one of those moments, too, where as soon as Trump said, well, somebody's got to run against this guy, it's like, no, absolutely not. He's one of, I don't know if I can put a number on it, but I bet I could count the amount of people on both hands very easily. He's one of the only guys in all of Congress that is a guy I truly trust and believe in. Yeah. And there's not many of those. Like I said, 2 hands, probably wouldn't use all the fingers.
Right. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
for sure.
here's the thing. We talked about this too. If you look, you mentioned Zelensky and Putin and all, and that deal that they're trying to make there, whether he's bumbling into a deal or if he has an actual strategy. Here's the problem with making a deal in that situation. You have two sides, obviously, like you would with any deal, but then you kind of have a third party too, because right, this has to work for us also. Um, in to some regard, when you have a country like Ukraine that, let's be clear, is getting its ass handed to it, and the only reason it has any chance at all is because all of NATO is funding the war, supplying weapons, and of course, Ryan, no troops on the ground except those 14 boots.
14 boots on the ground.
Well, see, I would even argue that you're framing that it's three parties, Russia, Ukraine, and then us is more of it's kind
Well,
of
you could
the Western Russia with
I was-
kind of
sure,
Ukraine as the pawn in the middle.
sure. You could throw all of NATO in this as well. I mean, it's you could say it's global. Maybe it's maybe it's almost borderline a world war, Ryan. Um,
Ooh, that'd be different, wouldn't it? Something different.
but the problem
We
is
don't
when
declare wars though, so what do we know?
you have Zelensky on one side who wants things to go back exactly how things were before this broke out. And it's going to be very difficult because he doesn't really have a leg to stand on.
Yep.
When you're getting your teeth kicked in by another country and you're waving the white flag, but you're saying white flag, but let's go back to the way things were, return all of the land, get out of Ukraine completely, and by the way, we want this and we want that and we want this. You're not arguing from a place of strength. Making a deal from a place of weakness is incredibly difficult, borderline impossible. You have you have Russia on the other hand saying, listen, we'll back out, but we want the land we have gained to some degree. And if that's a no deal for Zelensky, and Russia is saying that we're not giving the land back, you are at a stalemate. I think Russia, from what I've heard, is saying we just like we said from the beginning, we want Ukraine absolutely. This is a line in the sand. Ukraine cannot be a part of NATO. We want NATO out. We want the land that we have gained, and then we're done. So I think Russia is more firm and set on what they want. Ukraine, they're not meeting in the middle. It's not going to happen. So somebody is going to have to settle, or this is going to have to be a real war.
Right.
That's where you're at right now.
Yeah, because they're also, it's not just we want to reset it back to how it was there. They want to go back to 2014 and take Crimea again, which that was off the table from the start. That's not going to happen.
That's right.
So
to some degree, now when people talk about Trump's deal-making abilities, what do you do if you're Trump? I know what you can say. Fuck this, you two figure it out. I'm out completely. I'm not funding Ukraine. We're not giving you anything. You guys figure it out. And I think that's what's going to have to happen. But the problem is you have NATO not having our back on this. So we saw this when Zelensky was at the White House. Trump, Vance, Rubio kind of ripped into Zelensky a bit. And he stormed off to Canada and Europe. And Canada and Europe are like, yeah, we got your back, Ukraine. Well, hold up. I'm the United States. I'm funding pretty much most of NATO right now. You guys need to listen to us. And this is where it's going to end up going, in my opinion. If you're Trump and you need to make this deal happen, listen, NATO, I'm out if you don't have our back. In Ukraine, you're not getting money anymore. And if you do that, Ukraine's going to have to play ball. NATO is going to have to play ball.
Yeah, that's probably how it has to be. I can't disagree with that.
But then, unfortunately, I think you have now what that looks like is Trump is playing for Putin, right? That's gonna be the narrative on that.
Yeah, that's always the look, and who knows? Maybe that's why he's coming out so strong this week. Again, as Vladimir Putin's got to do this, so and talking about sanctions and everything else again. So
I don't know how you move it in the other direction. As far as we can get into Israel too, but as far as that conflict goes, I think Trump's made it pretty clear he's siding with Israel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's not going to stop the killing by any means.
No, I mean, Israel, they're going to do what they want anyway. It's just the fact that, why are we funding it? And yeah, both sides of it. And I mean, we talked about APAC. They'll support anyone who holds who claims to be pro-Israel. So they hold all that sway down there in DC, and there's just zero institutional give on that issue. They can do no wrong. They can do whatever they want, and it's going to go on until Israel gets what they want. And then, I was just listening to, I believe it was the latest Soho Forum debate on that, and on that issue, just last night, this morning, and it's like, everything you hear, you start, it's always it's like you're playing. It's like there's always two sides of the coin, right? So you start saying, hey, there are these issues with what's going on in Gaza. Okay, well, blah blah blah, Hamas, right? Okay, well, what about the same things going on in the West Bank? Well, they're not bombing it out, but let's go bulldoze these people out of their homes. Let's take this. We had a couple years ago. Now that was in Jerusalem, I believe in Sheikh Jarrah. You have the guy from New York who just walks in and steals a family's home. He at one point when they were out, came in, put up a wall, and said, "I live here now." And then at some point they were out, and he just took the rest of the house. And he's on video, and they're like, "You're stealing our house." And what did he say? He said that if I don't take it, someone else will. So there's just things like that going on. It's like, well, how do you justify that? And it's always mealy mouth, blah blah blah, Hamas, or or whatever. There's just so many problems there with the way
Did you catch any of that debate of Douglas Murray versus Dave Smith? We played a handful of clips here on the show and reacted to it, but did you see any of that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Saw it. Talked about it for 2 weeks on Libations.
It was one of those things where clearly people had their opinions, and that's just, it was confirmation bias on all sides, because people who are the pro-Israel people were like, "Yep, Douglas Murray crushed Dave Smith in debate," and all the other people were like, "Yeah, Dave Smith crushed Douglas Murray," and I think what got lost was the actual content of what they talked about.
Yeah, for what little bit did, but yeah, it's hard to find anyone who's actually looking and following any kind of politics at this point who doesn't come down on one side or the other, and is just going to be entrenched on that issue regardless. So people want to have a discussion, but literally nobody's mind has changed from anything from anyone talking about it.
No, I think in here, and I don't, Ryan, if you want to jump in where you stand on this, but in my opinion, if the U.S. stays out of it, and I'm saying we're not funding both sides of this thing. Listen, Israel got attacked by a terrorist organization. They leveled. They've done plenty of their own damage. But I just want U.S. out of it. I mean, if you guys figure it out, and let's go from there. But the cheerleading has been interesting. I don't know. Something with me doesn't sit right about people cheering for the, like. I don't know if you saw that tweet from the Misfit Patriot on X, but he was literally cheering for dead Hamas kids. And I'm sorry, I can't get behind that. We're talking about dead children.
That new congressman from Florida in the right up before the special election also had a tweet like that. So
I missed that. Who was that? Do you remember offhand?
I can't remember his name. It was just the other week before the special election.
Oh man, I just can't get behind that mindset. The cheering on dead kids for me that's big line in the sand. Like we're not remotely on the same page.
Yeah. Let me find his name real quick. Let's see. I forgot his name already on this. Randy Fine. That was his name. Yeah, he had a real bad tweet right before that election too. So,
Ryan, Ryan, have you heard Mike Walz here? Mike Walz, I believe he's the head of the NSA, right? He is out. He is out. He's on the way out. And if I'm not mistaken, was he not one of the people behind the Signalgate scandal? Am I thinking of the right person? That was Mike Walz, was that not?
You mean the Signal one?
Added to the Signal chat?
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised, David, if the head of the NSA is that what you're saying?
I believe so. Yeah,
National Security Advisor.
Yeah, so a national security advisor was basically leaking government confidential information to a journalist direct from the source through a third party app kind of stuff.
Here's my problem with that situation.
Crazy.
At 0 point, I actually don't have a problem with the fact that they had a Signal chat. That part doesn't bother me at all. Don't love the very nonchalantly killing people with bombs thing, but nobody had a good explanation for how a journalist got on the chat.
Especially one that Walz claimed he never had contact with, doesn't know, doesn't like. But yet somehow just it got added from Walz's phone. He's the one who created it and added him. So, and how that went unnoticed, like who's this random person you just added? I don't understand it, which initially made me think that it was done with some other purpose in mind. Like
that dude is fucking somebody else other than his wife, and he was blackmailed into doing that.
That's as reasonable as an explanation as I've heard.
I don't know, like, dude, I don't know if hell has no fury like a woman scorned. King Solomon wrote an entire chapter about women in the Bible. Okay, they say women weren't talked about in ancient times. You're fucking wrong. They wrote whole volumes about you, and he said some shit. But regardless of it, I wouldn't doubt if that's how these people get caught in this. Back to this, Dave. Remember how we talked about what's 99% Veep like compared to 1% Veep? You know, where on 1 to 100% Veep is this guy right now? You know, because it
was done with complete intention.
Yeah, exactly. But him doing it could be leveraged because he is a dumb whore and he's banging some of his dude. They all gotta have side pieces in Washington D.C. I don't know why nobody talks about. I don't know why. Have you been there? Have you fucking been there? You think there's ugly women?
If I haven't been there, can I not have an opinion on it?
I have been to the Albany State Capitol, and there was no fat, ugly women there. Okay? Not the ones elected. The fattest women in there were the elected ones or the bitches that just answered the phone. Okay? The women that are like serving paperwork were all hot. They're all hot wearing dresses. Are you kidding me? It was cold outside, David. The gun rally happened in the fucking January, David. You clearly remember the snow. Unless leaving the boot prints and destroying public property, David. As always. Fuck Cuomo. Anyways, these women are hot, dude. And for me to think that this guy is sitting there with full nuts all day long talking about the most stressful shit to ever happen in the history of all of humanity, and he's not fucking his secretary, is crazy. And not enough people say that. And nobody on the news is going to say that because they're fucking their secretary too at the news. And he doesn't want his wife knowing about it. Yes. These are the peak people. The peak. Dude, we live better than Roman emperors, minus like having a couple. Well, you have a couple houses, you fucking 600 air. Other than having a couple fucking houses, we live better than like all the people that ever existed in the history of all of humanity snapped together times 100. Okay, I have fucking electricity. I can watch butt cheeks on every corner of the globe. Okay, you're kidding. You're kidding. You get porn on the moon, David.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
No. I'm not off the rails, David. This is factory.
What the fuck are you talking about?
These people sit on the top of humanity, David. Okay. They have all this power. They have all this influence. They're corrupted by every fragrance. They can buy everything. If all things are luxury, what is a luxury? If you can afford every pearl in the world, David, yes. Everybody at the news is fucking everybody else.
Right,
yes,
you're completely unhinged right now.
I'm not unhinged, goddammit,
so
David.
You think,
these people are out fucking around, and then they get caught up in
fine.
signal chat scams, and then we got national security issues.
I need to nail down the specifics of this. So you think,
just like the Hammer. Do you remember the Hammer story? David Nancy Pelosi's husband, prostitute, what was
that journalist's name again? Was it Jeff Goldberg?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's...
So you think the journalist Jeff Goldberg had some insider information on Mike Walz about him cheating on his wife? So he forced Mike Walz to add him to the chat. And then even though they
now you're making conspiracy. David.
I gotta finish it though. So even though everybody knew he was in there, they still talked about bombing everything like normal.
Yeah, what else are you gonna do? What other reasonable explanation is there, David? Other than love triangles.
I think if everyone knew he was there, they wouldn't have said that openly. You think with the journalist, everyone knew the journalist was there, but they were like, yeah, fuck it, we're going to talk about bombing Yemen.
Have they released an official story? Because all we get is just the scuttlebutt, David.
Well, the journalist did release screenshots of all the things they were talking about.
Mm-hmm. I know that. I've seen that, but they've never admitted how we got in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what
I'm telling you,
had a good reason,
David. I'm telling you.
Ryan's gone. He froze. Ryan froze.
Well, that'll settle him down for a little bit.
That's not Ryan worked up, for the record. You haven't been around him enough.
Yeah.
That's Ryan at about 42%. I don't know about this theory, but to his credit, I haven't heard a good one. And I damn well know, if I was Trump in this, there ain't no way that dude would have still been employed past that day. He is fired that day, because if he can't give me a good reason for why they have a signal chat with a journalist who you damn well know doesn't like Trump, and you got no reason for it, I'm assuming you did it on purpose to sabotage me, and you're out. You're out of the administration, especially given that Trump has to have... He's got to be extremely worried about everybody around him. It just has to be, because of the way his previous run went. Getting shot, people trying to put him in prison. I would be very cautious about everybody who's around me.
Yeah, and I think Walz was one of the biggest question marks. I'm saying a lot of the other people are great. I mean, there's people that I like, but it seems like he's really gone a different path this time. I mean, last time, it was a whole bunch of swamp creatures, and Walz was still kind of a holdover of the swamp creatures. So
yeah, I just don't understand that one, and I certainly don't understand why you would keep him on for another month after that happened.
But now, at least the talk I'm hearing is that he's, it seems like they're ushering him out from the national security advisor role, but they're giving him the gig at the UN.
Oh, so he's getting a promotion or a side motion, whatever you want.
Yeah, he's kind of in a way failing up, because now you have like no responsibility and just go hang out in New York.
Yeah, that's just,
and don't do much.
Well, who gave him that though?
What, the UN thing?
Yeah.
I'm hearing that's what the Trump administration is doing, is that they're moving him to the UN ambassador.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Which first term was Nikki Haley, and I don't see this much as an improvement.
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. I just, that dude needs to be fired and forgotten. So I don't know. I still haven't heard a good reason. The only thing I can do is assume it was done intentionally. And if that is the case, to give him a promotion, if you want to call it that, I don't know. That's weird to me. That doesn't make any sense.
For sure. The story's been odd since day one, and I was thinking from day one it had to be purposeful. I thought there was a bigger game at play, but it seems, he either fat fingered it, or an assistant set the chat up and handed him the phone after adding everyone in.
And even if you were to like fat finger it, as you say, you would assume he was somehow in your contacts of to some degree. So I don't know who else was in that chat, but if you had another Jeff G in there or something, and you picked the wrong one, I mean, I could almost see something like that happening, but like that's not even what they tried to explain. It just nothing they said made any sense.
No,
They
he,
just
he
said it was
claimed that.
inadvertent.
Yeah, he claimed he'd never had contact with him, never talked to him. So there's no explanation as to, well, why is his number on your phone? How is his contact on there if you've never been in contact?
And there's
So
no good answer.
yeah,
So naturally promote him, I guess. Send him to the UN. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. Have you heard any of the talk of the Trump administration potentially trying to suspend habeas corpus?
I saw something going around on that, but I do not know the details.
Yeah, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, I know to my knowledge in our lifetime that's never happened.
No, as far as I know, it's only been like Lincoln and
Lincoln's the only person I know of.
Yeah.
Was there another?
I don't know if you technically consider the concentration camps under FDR as suspending habeas corpus, but that would, I guess, in some way be similar.
I don't know if that. Yeah, I don't know if that was ever officially done. But yeah, I mean, certainly if you have your own concentration camps for Japanese people, it's certainly not a great look.
Yeah.
I'm curious if I can find this. I know Lincoln for a fact. It says Bush did so.
Did he?
Interesting. AI Overview says 2 U.S. presidents have suspended habeas corpus, Abraham Lincoln and George Bush. Both did so during times of war or national emergency, with Lincoln suspending it unilaterally during Civil War, Bush having his suspension authorized by Congress in the aftermath of 9/11. Bush suspended habeas corpus for certain detainees, primarily those held at Guantanamo Bay after 9/11. The Military Commissions Act of 2006, passed by Congress, allowed the suspension of habeas corpus for individuals who are not U.S. citizens and were held as enemy combatants. The Supreme Court case, Boumediene versus Bush, later limited the scope of Bush's suspension, ruling that all detainees, including those at Guantanamo, had the right to challenge the detention through habeas corpus. Interesting. So it has happened in our lifetime, apparently. I did not know that.
Although that's, I guess, it's focused on, non-citizen Guantanamo Bay. Still not great. A whole lot of bad stuff there, but that's a lot less visible when it's not Americans or not happening within the borders of the country.
Well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is in relation to the people he's sending to El Salvador.
Yeah, that would have been my suspicion when I saw that, which still not great. It seems it's been a really heavy hand on as far as that goes. I don't know what to believe as far as what I'm being told, one side, the other side. It seems like, it hasn't been handled in the right way when he came out and said, or at least wanted to, if he had strongly focused on gang members and, said, well, we're cracking down on these gang members here illegally, these people committing, violent crimes, hurting people here. That's a, much better place to start that keeps people on your side when you're hearing, when you're giving the media things like, what's his name in it that was sent to El Salvador?
Abrego.
Yeah.
Garcia, something like that. Yeah.
Which I don't know what to believe there, because they claim MS-13. The media says no, not MS-13. I don't know what the truth is, and that's one of those stories. I'm like, I don't know what to believe.
Well, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I don't know if you remember, but in our group there, we had a little bit of a debate about that. Here's the thing. The problem I have now, here's the debate that happened within our group, which is, it's a slippery slope. I think it's dangerous. I don't like the idea of sending people away without due process. And I get that to an extent, and I'm fine. That's fine. That's a perfectly reasonable, logical debate. What the media and people on the left have done, especially with this Abrego Garcia case, is they've said, nope, just a Maryland man, good father, husband, loving husband, loving father. Trump just sent him away to El Salvador unfounded, leaving out the fact that he has violent crimes, leaving out the fact that he was here illegally, then got married, leaving out the fact he's from El Salvador, leaving out the fact that he's a gang member. If they leave all that out to make it sound like Trump just sent some Maryland man, right? That's what they call them. They just sent some Maryland man to El Salvador unfounded.
That's all the media reports I saw. Yeah, that was all the media reports I saw, and then you see the administration coming out saying, no, this, and it's like, at that point I checked out on it because I'm like, I don't know what the truth is somewhere in the middle here, and I don't know what the actual deal is.
And this is unfortunately for the media, though. This is where they lose their credibility, because if they would have taken the line that was had within our group, which is slippery slope, don't love it, no due process, not a great idea, could get worse, then that's a reasonable concern and a reasonable debate to be had. But the second you lie about it, the second you say that he's just a Maryland man and he got sent unfoundedly to El Salvador, when people find out that that's not the case, you continue to lose credibility. That's why there's absolutely no trust in the media. Oh
yeah, that's for sure, and that's where I've been on that. Like, like I said, I haven't dug into the details because I've seen these high levels and I went, I don't know, and I'm not going to figure it out. But, there's got to be some due process with it, right? Like, if you've been convicted of violent crimes and, you are here illegally, you don't have citizenship, then, that should be established and that should be that. I don't think there should be some sort of long drawn out debate like, no, you've been convicted of crimes, you're not here legally, gone. That should be the basically how it is. The due process is hitting those criteria. You hit those criteria. That's
and the thing that within our group, I had this debate, and the thing is, when I said that I don't think illegal immigrants should have due process, the question was, well, how do you know without due process that they're illegal? And the fact is, you can figure that out very easily. So my opinion on due process, and maybe you think this is different, but my opinion on due process is this. I'm talking court, judge, jury of your peers. You go through, everyone lays out the evidence, and then they come to a decision. Okay. Now, with immigration, that's not necessarily what you're going to do unless there was any actual violent crimes or things like that. But in like an immigration court, you still have a judge, you still have a case to be had. If that's the due process that people are expecting, what's tricky about that is it's the immigration system is extraordinarily backed up. Now, if you're okay with the due process of something very simple, which is you clearly are an illegal alien. We know this is the case. We know you came here legally. You don't have U.S. citizenship. You don't have any U.S. documentation. And I can ship you out on a plane today. Is that enough due process? I think that's where the debate is to be had.
Yeah. And I don't know, you've got to, I feel like, especially, it comes down to, if you focus on actual violent crimes, if there's convictions, you've gone through the due process of the courts, as flawed as that is, on those issues. So, in my mind, the immigration courts is basically an administrative function more than a judicial function. So if the criteria is, here illegally and violent crime against someone else, a crime with a victim, well, that's, as far as I know, if you can establish those two things in fact, then, there's
to me those are, deporting those people to me is absolute no-brainers.
Yeah.
And those are the people that under previous administrations have been continuously allowed to stay.
Yep.
And
allowed to stay, or deported and let or deported and sent and come back or whatever.
Sure. And to me, that's the middle ground. That's where it's easy for, to me, in my opinion, that's where it should be easy to have middle ground. And if somebody sees all that, they say, we're talking about a violent criminal who is here illegally and I'm sending him back to his country, and you're still against it, then there's no middle ground to be had.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty fair. Where did they? I just saw a story the other day of, I can't remember where they said they were going to ship people if they couldn't get their home country to take it. Somewhere in Africa, I think. I can't remember. Did you
I
guys
have not seen
to
that, but I do know, like, for example, I think the Venezuelan government has very clearly stated, we don't want we don't want these people back. We're talking about violent gang members from Venezuela. We don't want them
'cause
back.
They opened the prison and said, go to the U.S.
Yes. So what we're doing with those people is sending them to El Salvador as well. And El Salvador said, yeah, we'll take the violent Venezuelan criminals. Now, the thing that's interesting, what were we told about the El Salvador prisons is that they're so ruthless and, almost like a plea for humanity. Like, don't send these people there. It's absolutely not where people should be sent. Have due process, and then put them in our jails.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, it's it's one thing when you're saying, okay, I'm sending you back to your country. Your country's El Salvador, and then what happens there happens there. But also, you do have to that this is where the issue comes in. Also, as far as, I guess, refugee laws or whatever or asylum laws, because if you send someone back to a place, if you send someone back to a place where the government's going to either imprison them, kill them, whatever, without any kind of process at all, just unilaterally, okay, well, we know you're this and you get this. Sending someone back to that situation then raises up other issues and looks even worse, especially when you're talking about, oh, these are Venezuelans. El Salvador said they'd take them, and they're just going to throw them in,
in
a
borderline concentration camp.
Yeah, for forever, and no due process beyond that. That's some issues, and El Salvador's made great strides as a country under Bukele. That's where it's hard because El Salvador at one point was the murder capital of the world, just absolute most dangerous place on the most dangerous country on the planet, and now it is the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, which is wild.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
El Salvador is the safest place in the Western world.
They have the lowest murder rate in the Western Hemisphere.
Holy shit! I didn't know that at all. That's
crazy. They now. What did that cost? It was the heavy-handed tactics of, anyone that's affiliated with a gang, we're going to sweep them up and take them off the streets forever. That's fine, but also, it's taking, I think, 2 years to get a court date there. They do pick up indiscriminately. It's, if we suspect you, we're taking you, and then we'll figure it out maybe eventually. So, it's not a great, it's not the most libertarian solution to the issue. At some point, you've got to.
Sometimes liberty comes at a convenience of a society that doesn't support convenience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, right? Because when you are living in,
if all your kids were getting fucking murdered, I'd be like, arrest everybody unilaterally. You'd almost naturally want to be like, it would take a person of great moral virtue to be like, whoa. Historically, this is like, and nobody wants to hear that, So dude, kids were raped and killed, and these guys are responsible. We should just round everybody up, or anybody that we think. I don't care if it's a 5-year court date. Put them all in jail. It's the same thing about when they say kill pedophiles.
Yeah, and let's also let's not forget MS-13 was more than just a gang. Like, these were, we caught some of those crimes here. I mean, these are, torture and machetes, and like, it's not just drive-by gang kind of violence that you get here. Like, from
Well,
American
they're a
gangs like
business
this.
too. More than anything, these gangs are a business. Like
Yeah.
that's what like I kind of think about. I've said this locally here. Like after COVID, our area used to have like very good nightlife. 3 o'clock in the morning, you could go to Walmart and do anything. And I know most people are like, yeah, Walmart 24. No, this area like is very unique in its nightlife, and it just disappeared. And it's like those people had to have gone somewhere. They didn't just evaporate. All that money, all that drug money, the undercover money, that stuff had to go somewhere. And yeah, I just think this is a natural thing that we're seeing now. We're gonna have to almost heavy-handedly walk down the hill of tyranny because things have gotten so fucking out of control. I'm not for this, by the way. I'm super free. I want super freedom. The problem is like things have gotten so far off the rails in some of these instances that it's like, what the fuck do you do other than like, I mean, luckily we have guns in this country to supposedly, David, outweigh the government, but
Well, I think that's a good point, right? There's, a culture of liberty requires, I guess, a high trust society, a society where you can trust, hey, most of your neighbors aren't going to screw you over, where cooperation can come in, where you, I guess, know your neighbors, where, that's why that's why I focus and try to talk local. But when you're talking about, government actions such as, you imported a whole bunch, you spent tax money on NGOs that that basically transported people in South America to the border and brought them in, and then said, oh, we're not doing anything, and they can just come in, we're opening the border wide open, whoever wants to come in comes in. And then people go, well, how am I supposed, and they move. Then we saw what happened in New York. They moved people to New York. They dropped those immigrants off on Martha's Vineyard to make a point, from Texas. But you started seeing New York like, well, we're just going to give them like $10,000 prepaid cards.
Dude, those people came to a community that I live in and raped and killed an 11-year-old girl in a hotel right outside the area's largest mall.
Yeah.
Like that was a local story in Buffalo News. Like a little girl was fucking raped and killed by one of these immigrants that was brought here from New York City that's from out of the country. It was right before like a couple months before that girl got burned in the New York City subway that was like super high profile that everybody just fucking watched this girl get burned alive. Yeah. But that's what I mean. This thing is a business at this point. These people are making those coyotes. People always joked about Trump saying coyotes. The coyotes get them in Wile E. Coyote. These people get paid to like traffic people into the country. There's a whole apparatus, and then there's the government side of this, right? Like somebody's job is to try to find a place for illegal aliens. They don't give a shit what happens to them. They say that some people probably have good intentions and get picked for that job for that very reason. But the actual reason the job exists is because the government's got to do something with this fucking apparatus that it's built to funnel money out of taxpayers. Yeah. I mean, more at the end of the day, I don't think them transporting these people here is to benefit the country or these people.
No, I don't think.
And I think generally I think generally most people agree with that. And then
it's not some sort of natural migration. It is, government subsidized, covered by the taxpayer on the taxpayer expense, putting people who, it's not that they wanted to.
They're dude. This is prima nocta. This is prima.
It's not even necessarily that it's people who want to be here, or maybe it's they want to not be where they are, or it's drug trade. Like, hey, I need to be here to make the money off of this, or whatever it is. But regardless, the crime follows with it. We see the stories. The crime follows with it, and yet that degrades the trust that society has. And that further, that is where you end up getting, a more heavy-handed authoritarian and more authoritarian policies, because, people say we can't have this. And well, what do you do when you're down that path so far? You say
you hire Hitler. You hire Hitler, and he fucking kills everybody because you've had enough. Yeah, 100%.
That's where this goes. Yeah,
yeah, we already know that. You know, like that's the horror of the 20th century, right? It's like Jordan Peterson coined that.
Yeah.
If you just let like transgender pronouns take over language, we will have Hitler. Like it's not a fucking hyperbole. It happens every single time in human history. We're supposed to just act. We're supposed to go to work tomorrow. They spray fucking chemicals in the air to reflect the sun's particles, but they tell me it's to help climate change. Fuck these people. I'm supposed to go to work and not be pissed off. Like they're rigging the whole thing to bring it down. And to go even further, I don't know how we got an immigration out of all this, but it is planned replacement of a population that does not trust the government. That's all it's ever been. It's the oldest trick in the damn book. It's prima nocta. This is the same thing in the movie Braveheart. The beginning of in the movie, the girl that's supposed to be married and have
isn't that when the king deflowers everybody?
Yeah, on their wedding night. Because now, not only is it too much to just breed out the peasantry, David, I got to fucking traumatize her with political Stockholm syndrome on top of it. These people, this is a strategy that has been implemented since the dawn of humankind, and it's far older than this country. And to think that we just forgot about this, David, that all these rich, famous, powerful people that name dire wolves after the founders of Rome, they don't know any history, David, right? None of the rich, famous people know fucking history. They just name their kids Atlas and after fucking very deep symbolic things, but they don't know nothing about myth. Sorry. It's frustrating. I watch them spray fucking chemicals every day, and I'm outside. I work outside. I just watch them. They spray X's in the goddamn air every day. It's just like we got problems.
They're gonna start spraying your name.
I'm told I can't do nothing. I'm gonna go stab the airplanes. Like what do you mean we can't do it? We're letting this happen. They're cultural Marxists. They're bringing it down. How did we get on immigration? I missed this because the phone has to heat up, David, because I have such fire.
The phone overheated. That's why you left us.
It's hot, David. The phone.
Well, how is it colder now? Did you put it on ice?
Are you gonna mock me, or are you gonna you're trying to have a conversation?
I'm just curious.
As a CCGC double XP weekend CFO, you should be there for me emotionally to allow me to. You should hold space for your employee, David. Unless this is slavery. Oh, you're a publisher, David. Is that how you get around it? You're the publisher, not a platform.
It's slavery, right?
You are a piece of shit, David. No wonder you think kike is worse than the N-word, David. You are Jew.
I don't know if
kike is. I don't know.
Don't forget.
It's kind of like fag. Fag is not as bad as. I don't know. I'm sorry. There's no way they're hate crimes. I don't care. Sue me. Throw me in jail. Google. Pull this up in court with your AI lawyers. I don't give a rat's ass. It is not the same thing.
You have to remember
it's like the worst world.
Right. You got to remember he doesn't know what we're talking about.
I don't care. He agrees that kike and faggot are not as bad as the N-word. Everybody knows that. I'm not talking to the authoritarian, David. Yeah, see, am I not talking to the authoritarian? Libertarian. Fuck this.
I don't think we should get into this again, but I have a theory that here's the thing. When you're looking at...
Is Eve there laughing? Yeah, I hear. She knew.
When you're
looking at atrocities.
Well, yes. When you're looking at offensive words, okay, I think it's understood and agreed upon that the N-word is tied. The reason it is so powerful is because it's tied to a great atrocity, right? Am I correct in the original logic of this theory? I think so.
In some way,
so.
Yeah,
I think that's what.
I'm normally not a cultural historian on the N-word, David.
It's tied to slavery, is it not?
100%.
100%.
And they flipped it into the GGA in hip hop, David. As good hip hop artists do.
So if the N-word is bad because it's tied to the atrocity of slavery,
mm-hmm.
then the logic is, you follow the logic trail,
mm-hmm.
the worst atrocities would produce the most offensive words. So then the question is the Holocaust worse than slavery?
Some would say it was slavery, David.
Some would say it's worse. So then
forced labor. I think they called it forced labor in the 20th century.
Slurs
David.
tied to Jews would be worse than slurs tied to black people because the Holocaust was worse than slavery. I think the logic is logical. But then we agreed that China's.
Are you talking? you have to weigh this out, though, right? You're talking a couple hundred years of slavery versus a very short, very focused event.
Now, see, now this is possible. Now you're talking about the timeline and the length of which the atrocity was.
I
When
said,
was looking
I
at,
said this to him. Yeah, I
I
said this
was
to him.
looking at
He didn't bite
pure.
it.
I
Yeah,
was
he
looking
just
at
looked
pure
at.
numbers.
He
I
looked at the
I was looking at
macro.
pure numbers.
It's like,
If
how many
anything,
died?
if
Who
anything,
built
it's
the cages?
the fact that the Holocaust was such a short span and killed so many more people than slavery
Is
almost
worse
makes the
than
Holocaust
slavery.
that much worse.
Yeah, David. It wasn't a
But then
generational murdering for you. You
don't
fucking.
forget,
There's
we landed.
no way. It's
But
no
Ryan,
way.
don't forget, we landed on the one-child policy being worse for
Dude,
humanity than
walk
slavery
into
or the
a room
Holocaust.
of people and scream those 3 words and let me know how many people have a problem with each word. Because it
That's
gets
societal.
progressively
But
worse,
that's
David.
societal. Ryan, that's
It's not
societal.
societal. It's not societal.
We're never
Oh,
gonna
it's
have Chris on
because
the show again, Ryan.
good. You try to take my money. Try to take my money.
I didn't pay him.
You should have paid him. We were talking about authoritarian. We're talking about authoritarians. You get lost in translation, David. God. You will not paint me purple, David, just because you want to go on to better and better things on these $1 Media Club. I was going to open up $2 Media Club, David, and pay you twice as much. But you don't want to hear that bid.
Ryan,
You don't think I have a horse in this race. I'm
why are you
yoked,
now
David.
trying to compete with our guests?
I'm not. I'm just doubling the offer that he offered to you before the program. That's why there was
offer me
Yeah,
anything.
that's what you say. There was audio problems, static. I don't trust Dave. He's a shady ass producer on a fucking piece of cardboard out there. He says it's a studio. For all I know, he's fucking parked outside my house in a fucking RV recording the podcast.
One that was in a cardboard box in an attic somewhere for months.
That's
There's
true.
not-
You were
not
in
months.
Anne Frank's attic for doing the
It's
show.
a fake Jewish book, David. I swear to God. The same guy that sold jelly to Germans is having the Germans come kill his kid. I don't think so. I'm not making that jelly. I'm putting poison in there. I'm sorry. I'm poisoning the jelly. Burn the fucking factory down. Where are we? Did you even have clips just besides this guest and me trying to argue about the N-word?
You don't worry about what I have.
I'm tired of worrying. I don't worry, David. Actually, you're a male. I worry less with males.
No.
So it's females you got to worry about, David. You ever been sexually assaulted? It's terrifying. I told a bouncer at a club once that a girl slapped me in the butt, and he looked at me and was like, "Oh, super terrible." I was like, you know,
I was sexually assaulted during a massage, Ryan.
He was. He really was.
Yo, she grabbed the coin purse, bro. She's trying to pinch a loaf.
She asked specifically, "What
was
don't
it a
you want
rub
me
and
to
tug?
touch?" She
Did
said,
you know?
She said, "What don't you want me to touch?" I said, "My feet. Don't touch my feet."
Ryan,
So she touched the cock.
We got a couple's massage. I was literally like 2 feet away getting massaged while he was being massaged. We walked out of there. We get to the car. He looks at me and says, was there a lot of butt touching going on your side? And I said, no. What?
Did you have a girl?
Yeah, we both had girls.
Yo, does Dave got a stacked ass and just like she got lost?
I was getting sexually assaulted, Ryan.
You paid to get sexually assaulted. That's even worse.
I did pay to get sexually assaulted.
It's fucking terrifying.
I said, "Don't touch my feet," not knowing she was going to touch my butt. Because I would have said, "Don't touch either."
So
I would have just told her we should just get the orgy on, David. You don't go to rub and tugs, David. There was a rub and tug in Depew. It got shut down. It's crazy. They found $70,000 in cash, David. You know how many blowjobs it takes to get $70,000 in cash? Just think of that. It's crazy.
I don't know how much you charge.
$100 a blowjob. I had a buddy that went up there.
Ryan, we're never going to guess again.
This is Grace Podcast, Human History, David. I don't need no dollar. What is it? Dollar Shave Club? Oh, you're not Ben Shapiro Show.
Would
That's
you
Dave.
stop making fun of the guest, Ryan?
No, I'm not making fun of you being a shill for Jews, David. The N-word is the worst word ever produced in the English language. I can't utter it in rooms of people. I'm sick and tired of this.
On the C word being the worst word.
No.
It is.
It's not.
The one-child policy was indirectly.
Oh yeah.
It was terrible for women
Oh, yeah.
in China. They killed billions of women.
Oh, that's right. It is the worst word. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. Yo, what about crypto? What should I know about crypto? Now that I'm not making fun of you to piss Dave off in spite to ruin this program at its foundation. It's all in good sport, I swear. What should we know about crypto? I have a guy. He invests money. He's in the union with me and all this other stuff. He has like hundreds of thousands probably in his union account. He'll probably retire a millionaire, realistically. And but he right now he's working extra jobs and he's got like $20,000 in like the S&P 500 in separate mutual accounts and stuff, I guess. And his main thing is he's very interested in crypto. He knows nothing about it, but all he knows is people keep doubling their money. He just sees this thing keep going up, and he's like, and him and I talk, and basically, from my understanding, crypto, if you buy crypto correctly, you can basically ride the short of the dollar all the way into the next petrol or dollar or digital cryptocurrency, whatever's going to take over the dollar or whatever we're doing with money. You can basically buy your dollar in crypto on the way down with the dollar and the way crypto goes up, and you can get rich off it, basically. Not rich, but you can secure your wealth, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah. So I am not a crypto guy. I'm a Bitcoiner. So we do like to make it. We do like to draw that distinction. So I see a lot of noise.
And why is that in particular? I know I'm pretty ignorant on the topic in general.
So we try to, if we take it from let's say first principles, the best resource on this would be like Saifedean Ammous's the Bitcoin Standard would be the best book to look at this. But when we take a look at through monetary history, what makes a good money, what the properties are of a good money. I mean, you want something that is that you can't inflate to infinity like the dollar, like any government issued fiat currency.
So not Doge and Sheeb.
Yeah. You want something that is, where you don't have a whole bunch of extra stock coming in, where it is kind of restricted. You want something that's not easy to produce.
You want rarity, scarcity, value comes with a certain token that this thing is not easy to get. The more rare it is, the more valuable it is to obtain.
Yeah. So, what we end up and what we see when we start looking across that, gold settled out, throughout most of human history as sort of the most valuable, usable thing, right? There's enough of it, but there's not too much of it. But still, the gold supply increases at about 2% per year. You've got, honestly, I would argue that the creation of fiat money comes from the fact that that gold failed as money. You've got.
You meaning that it didn't secure the idea of value in money tens of thousands of years ago, basically? Like, if gold was that good, we would have kept it.
It worked up until communications were quicker, when transactions were as quick as where communications outpaced that.
When we stopped needing a horse to talk to each other, basically.
Yeah, when you started to be able to communicate long distance over wires, that created a fact that the gold became more and more centralized. It's held in banks. It's held at the Federal Reserve. It's held.
Ronald Reagan
was before, but if you were gonna,
held in Argentina by Nazis,
dude, the gay Hitler Nazis, David, with golden Hitler gay Nazis.
So as gold, as gold couldn't keep up with the transaction pace because, and it's expensive to settle out. If you were going to settle it out, I mean, you're talking about needing ships and containers and moving it across oceans if you're going to final settle. And you're talking about weeks on something like that. Meanwhile, we can say when you look at ACH, final settlement on that is 2-3 business days, maybe a week. You're looking at what's the speed of transaction. Well, now if we get something that is more scarce than gold, that producing takes, I don't know if you want to say more work, but takes a significant amount of work to do, takes some effort, is rare. Is consistent, is you start seeing that we have come up with something that takes the best of gold and kind of the best of fiat here and combine it. Now, where we get issues is, once Bitcoin came on the scene, and I think I don't know if I want to say it's a complete fluke, But I think Satoshi, when he created Bitcoin, I think he did have some general understanding on it, but I think he really maybe didn't intend to create something that was as good of money as it is, or that's a hard question on what
Did he
Satoshi
almost make it like a
intended.
meme, and then it became so much more than that, kind of?
Uh,
Like
Not really.
he
I
kind of
mean,
made Pandora's box without realizing he opened it.
I think that's part of what it is that he created this and didn't realize that he had created something that good.
Yeah,
But
he
then you
caught
got,
lightning in the bottle and didn't know. That's
yeah,
fucking nuts.
and then you got the copycats started coming in, Litecoin in there. We're
Yeah.
like, and Litecoin tried marketing itself as we're silver to Bitcoin's gold. Well, what use are you then?
Right. So
Why
back to
would
the
you?
Bitcoin and crypto thing. So you just basically in your mind you're biased or selectivist. But so you're basically, is Bitcoin worth buying? Is like the hype over? Do you actually see this thing taking off? Is this going to be real money in your opinion? What is this going to just be what stocks become is crypto or Bitcoin? Will the stock market become the Bitcoin market? Like what?
Well, I mean, Bitcoin's one asset, right? So, I would think that I don't know when and if it becomes, say money that's transacted or replaces fiat currency or anything like that. That's impossible to time. Now, it's
So
going to be
you're
hard to see thousands of, it's going to be hard to see like buying in at, like I had a roommate that was buying it at, the first time I heard of it, Bitcoin was at $20, and now it's at it was hit 97,000 today. So I don't know if you're going to see that that kind of astronomical gain at this point. I don't know, and I don't
Do
know
you think
how
it's worth
long.
buying as value then? Like just basically treat it as like another, like you said, a diversified portfolio that isn't a stock or a
Yeah,
business or
I
something
would,
or real estate.
and I'm not giving financial advice, but I
I
buy
am.
Bitcoin. I buy I don't buy other cryptocurrency. I don't see the value there. A lot of them go to zero, and I think as we see more and more as we go through the cycles, you saw the Ethereums come in and these other ones like, oh well, we provide this value in places that Bitcoin doesn't, and then you saw kind of the ICO boom come, and everyone's like, oh, we're going to create these tokens that have this utility. Then the venture capital came in. A16Z was a big one on there. They came in, and you could just watch the charts of these things. You see the investment come, price spikes, it gets pumped and then dumps, and then the project's dead because once it pumps and then dumps like that, no one's buying it again because no one's gonna. So any projects
Yeah,
that
that
people thought,
capital gain, that capital money comes and buy to basically devalue the money, just like
well,
when you
it
were
buys
to.
it. It buys it. They put a marketing campaign behind it. They run the
Mhm.
price up, and then they dump on
And
retail.
yeah, they sell it and they ride the wave down. But I mean, like them doing that is the equivalent of the government just printing the dollar into nothing. Like that's already happened a bunch in this.
Well, that's already kind of a thing with it, right? So I mean, so
Right.
many of these, when you're looking at these things, the meme coins and the stuff like that, because that's where we've gotten to now. We've gotten to the point. Well, we went through the collectibles phase with the whatever you call them. I can't remember the word, but trading pictures on the blockchain.
NFTs.
NFTs.
NFTs, yeah. We went through that phase, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to get rich just trading collectibles and creating that." Well, that's kind of died down also, and now we're in the world of meme coins, where we're just going to create coins that don't do anything, but they're a meme. You saw the Hawk Tua stuff, the Trump meme coin. I mean, everyone's just it's turned into.
Tate
So
has a
now
coin, Dave. Do you know the name of it?
Excuse me?
Tate has a coin. Do you know the name of it, David?
No, I've never heard of such coin. I suspect it's probably uses the third worst slur of all time.
But yeah, so you saw, so that industry has moved from we're going to do all this to its primary use is creating stuff that it, so it falls down.
Right.
It just constantly
It's
fails and fails
it's
and
the
fails.
bubble. It's the bubble. It's
Right.
the .com bubble. It's the real estate bubble. It's
And
the
the thing to look at is, especially with the meme coins, you see it, they'll, in their big pitches on why you should buy this, they talk about tokenomics, and what they really gloss over and people aren't looking at is like they go ahead and they create all these tokens, and they will hold a supply of it. Their developers will hold a supply, and this person will hold a supply, and all these people hold supplies of it. And then then they try to drive up the price. They're restricting that, and then they'll try to dump it off. And it's all scams over there. It's all, I don't want to say all, but it's basically all scams at this point. You look at Ethereum, there's meaningful levels of decentralization also. So Ethereum
to me, you mentioned being silver to Bitcoin's gold. To me, Ethereum is the silver in the market.
Well, so what Ethereum did, when it started, it was kind of like that, but it was Bitcoin, but you get to do all this extra stuff on it also. One thing about Bitcoin is that the size of the blockchain is actually fairly small. A 2 terabyte hard drive holds it no problem. You can keep your own copy of the blockchain, all the transactions that happened. That's what we call running a node, meaning that you can process transactions through your node so that it's checking it, it's validating it, and every user who does this helps ensure that there's that all the copies on the network are the same, everything matches up, and you're kind of double triple checking that there's no funny business going on. Ethereum, with all this extra stuff, they had to, they don't even bother on this. I mean, they have nodes, light nodes, this stuff, but it takes Amazon data centers to power the Ethereum network. And then, of course,
I've worked on a crypto farm, brother. I'm an electrician. I've worked on a crypto farm. They are the one farm that we went to was kind of a good size, but it's nuts. Like the idea that we're going to have these all over the place, like the amount of power generation that's needed.
Wall-to-wall servers, ventilation.
Dude, it's just, there's literally thousands of computers. There's huge, 50-foot fans across, 3 of them in the ceiling. Like in the summer, you got to wear a jacket in there because they have to keep it so cold because the place would blow up because there's so much power generation. Yeah, it's like, honestly, just at an infrastructure level, like that shit don't make any sense.
Well, okay,
it's so massive.
Let me come back on that one a little bit, but yeah, because of this power generation stuff, you had things like Ethereum and a lot of these other ones, Solana. They said, instead of proof of work, where you're using the computers to do math problems and continue building on the chain, they said what you're going to do is you're going to stake it, and then and if you act, if you break the rules of the network, you could lose that stake. But basically all that is saying, all right, whoever has the big stacks, you have, you put your money in here and you get more of it. So it's kind of already that, who's closest to the money printer. It brings us back to digital fiat there. As far as like Bitcoin, yeah, it takes an absurd amount of energy to mine if you're using actual miners. Those things burn power like crazy, but you're also not buying that power at market rates, right? You're looking for where you can get that power the cheapest, and there have been crazy things that Bitcoiners are doing to alleviate that. So they'll go out to West Texas or North Dakota, and they'll put mobile mining setups out there, burning gas that they would normally flare off. So when you drill, you've got the especially in like West Texas, I lived out there for a little bit. They don't make money on natural gas. They make money on oil. They don't make the money on the natural gas to build the infrastructure to take that natural gas, move it to the ports, and sell it. So they burn it. They just burn it out in the air. It's all over the place. A bunch of miners said, hey, looks like you're just burning stuff for nothing. Mind if we take that natural gas and burn it so we can produce something? So there's that. I know some companies have gone through old industrial towns. The mills moved down, but all those power interconnects are there for big industry. And they're like, well, here's energy that we can access. We can get a good rate on.
Yep, they do it with solar panels, actually. That's in Buffalo, there was a big steel mill called Bethlehem Steel that employed like tens of thousands of people, and it dried up like all the rust belts back when NAFTA and GATT and all that. And they now call them Steel Sun is the name of it, but it's all over in those industrial parks, and it's because of that very thing that you're describing. A lot of the infrastructure is right there. They just come in behind it, and
Yeah.
they just update it all.
So you're seeing that. What else are they doing? What you're also seeing is, you get into a little bit of complex mechanics with this, but basically, the miners will come in and they'll buy a certain amount of energy at a lower price ahead of time. They'll buy futures on it or whatever, and they'll have that. But then when the power, they're pooling so much, but then hey, we need more power over here. They'll sell that power back to the grid operator, so that justifies the maybe running a more efficient creation, running your plants at a higher efficiency instead of ramping up and down on the production. Just make it
use it as like a battery and
throttle the demand. And then the really interesting one that's going on a little bit is over in Africa. These microgrids, hydroelectric. Those were basically surviving on foreign aid donations to make it happen, to get these like little villages power. The Bitcoin miners came in and said, hey, you've got power there. Why don't we buy the power from you? You're going to sell it to us less than we can get a lot of other places. But, when you need that power, it's when you have peak demand, we'll just turn our miners off. You sell it to them. And that way we're buying up the excess power. That way you don't have to rely on the foreign aid, and you actually have a real market here. So,
dude, that's cool. That's cool. They're like using the farms as like batteries to sell it back to the local municipalities. And in a way, they're like strengthening their local infrastructure, like almost like a military style level. That's fucking crazy.
Oh, you've got a lot of interesting stuff there when you get the proof of work. So it's not, oh, look at how much energy you burn. It's look at how much energy we're creating for civilization. How much energy we require, and more energy.
Well, I will tell you,
civilization.
No matter how much energy you create, it's always at a loss. We will never create until we find out the perpetual motion machine. Everything is a waste by the time you use it. So that's just the laws of thermodynamics, obviously. But
this is where you are.
Your whole this is very cool and very interesting. And I'm going to take this knowledge and ask some real guys that I know, that would be able to like kind of. Basically the people that would build those buildings, knowing the wire and like what kind of actual power generation down to like a mathematical number, like, there are a lot of electrical engineers and a lot of math goes into that. That's so cool though. That's fucking crazy, man. Like we're self-militarizing places and strengthening the economy and infrastructure in a way based around digital tokens.
Yeah. But, this is only, this is largely the, things like Bitcoin that does it. When you're talking about just running servers, which is a lot of these other ones, but what we see is it centralizes in on a lot of these other ones. I mean, the Ethereum, you have the Ethereum Foundation, you have Vitalik as the leader there, as the face of it, and then Ethereum's not even doing well right now because they've centralized to the point they ended up in this middle ground where they're like, well, we're trying to be kind of decentralized, but also this. Well, guess what? Someone else came in, Solana, these other ones said, fuck the decentralization. We can be even faster and do more if we just centralize everything and just play.
Yeah, government efficiency, right?
Yeah. So
Department of Truth, Department of fucking Food.
So now, when you talk about the transaction fees on that, as far as those proof of stake ones, like Ethereum gets unreasonably high compared to other ones like Solana and stuff. So Ethereum kind of, maybe
price themselves out of the market.
But they took this middle ground where it doesn't serve the let's just make scam stuff and let's make all these tokens and just like see what people want to do and play with. It doesn't serve that market because it's too expensive and too slow versus the ones who just built and said we're going to centralize. That way we can just serve on this, and it's not decentralized to the point of Bitcoin where people were like, well, let's go set up this. We're going to go mine here to do it. We're going to do it this way. We're going to try to build this whole infrastructure, Bitcoin, where it's focused on how do we ensure we keep the value? How do we ensure we're building towards a better money? Something, and of course there's issues, right? One block of transactions happens every 10 minutes. The block is, 1 megabyte, maybe about 2 megabytes on some of the updates that came out. That's a whole thing. But that's not a ton of transactions. It's not covering it. So yeah, fees get expensive on there. So it's how do we scale on that? So that's where Lightning came in, things like the Lightning Network comes in, but now we've got to talk further scaling. And that's kind of the solution is how do we improve the system where we don't have to change it? And that was the whole battle for Bitcoin back in 2017. In the 2017 timeframe was, one side of, well, we need to change it so it works the way we want it to. And the other side is, how do we work with what we have without changing it? That way we keep a solid, consistent base. So, we can't just create more than 21 million Bitcoins. That the limit is the limit on that. And that's what, people do. So, you can have dollars where they're printing it into thin air. Just out of thin air, just throw it out, throw it to everyone, or you can buy an asset that will only be 21 million of it and look at that for the long run, right? I mean, it's, you don't have to do much. You're not going to be, it's not this casino where it's going to be, where you buy Trump coin at 25 cents or whatever it launched at, and then it's up at $50 the next day, and then it crashes
Right, it's
back
like sports
down.
betting.
We see over time Bitcoin has had and it's not the longest track record, but going back to 2008, it's just a it's just a gradual climb. Yeah, there's big ups, and then there's big downs. But I think it's still true that if you look at any 4-year time period, like you could stick you could take 2 points exactly 4 years apart anywhere on that, and it's worth more 4 years than that. It's not the 1-2% that you're getting in safe assets, and it's not the like 4, 5, 7% that you might get on an S&P. Which if you look at the S&P and all these funds and all these blue chip company, these big name, these S&P 500, the top 500 companies there in market cap, yeah, just go buy the S&P, right? That's the financial advice. If you don't know what you're doing, buy the S&P. But what's the value on that? What are these companies doing? I'm not seeing a whole lot of action from like some of the biggest companies. What has Microsoft done that's innovative lately? A lot of these companies are kind of zombie corporations that exist because of the name, because of their size, their access to the capital. They buy up, startups in order to improve marginally, but you're not seeing anything revolutionary. And
yeah, it's like a trust. They're funneling money.
And then yeah, so everyone's told put it in here. All the fund managers.
Yeah, we put all our money in there, and then they grow our money tenfold.
And then the stock price goes up because everyone's putting their money in there. It's all kind of this Ponzi scheme in a way.
Yeah, I said I DoorDash on the side, and I came on here. I told Dave that it's basically the new drug dealing, because all you're doing is funneling stock dividend gains for DoorDash, and they're paying me with it because DoorDash doesn't really have any money because it's all tied around stock value, which isn't even value till they sell, but they're never really selling because people are always buying. So they're creating value out of nothing, but we're providing value out of something. And it's just basically like a bank. DoorDash is like basically like a bank for people to buy their groceries with.
Everyone's a bank now. I mean, Apple's a bank.
Yep.
The airlines are banks. Like
Silicon Valley, they have more money than countries, right? Like they're worse than banks. They're countries. Oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
And if money is free speech, what is so much money that you're the size of a country? Are you now your own country? Maybe that's how they fuck kids on private islands, Dave.
So that's the, I guess, short rundown on why I look at Bitcoin and see the future on it, and why I buy, why I don't think you've missed the boat. We say, one of the major phrases is gradually then suddenly. I don't think we've come anywhere near the suddenly. And we have to accept the fact that the governments aren't going to start acting financially responsible. They've opened the Pandora's box of fiat where they just run the money printer so they don't have to raise your taxes. They take away the value you earn. It's bad enough they tax you at obscene rates, but then what you do manage to save, they eat away. They claim 2%, but 5, 7, 10% a year.
Dude, inflation's got to be 10%.
Yeah. So how much do we want to, how much do we want to keep playing into that system, or do we want to start setting aside and saving in a system they don't control, that is meaningfully decentralized, that is, that you can't just go, that no single person is in control of, where if someone tries to change the rules, the entire network has to come into consensus. If someone says, well, I'm changing the rules to say this, the rest of the system's going to say, nope, you're breaking the rules and we're ignoring you. So,
the one thing truly though I do worry about, the one thing I truly worry about is, at what point are they not allowed to be decentralized? Because
I don't know how
that can happen.
They're gonna have to.
Well, I don't know how you stop it. We have
guns, bombs,
but that's
military.
The thing is, China banned mining, and there's still Bitcoin mining that goes on in China. There's still Bitcoin.
Well, but they're not rounding people up yet, blowing up computers.
No, but they did ban it, and what did we see? We saw everyone get up and move somewhere else.
They went on Minecraft.
El Salvador understands and is saying this. The Trump administration seems to be quite friendly so far. We'll see where it goes to it. States, Arizona has a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill on the desk of the governor, I believe. I don't know if it's been signed yet, but I believe it was heading to the desk. It passed both houses. And that's the game theory that we're now in. We're past the point of banning it. We're at the point of nation state adoption.
And implementation.
Yeah, because and once we're at that point, the fact that the Bitcoin strategic reserve was floated by the Trump administration drives the game theory that to other countries, countries like Bhutan have been doing like some mining and stuff like that already. El Salvador, of course, but that drives the game theory of, if the US is putting money into this, well, we know how much they can buy. We need to start front running this. And the states are looking at that and they're saying, well, we need to start front running this, which is why,
right, because there's capital
at least
in it.
35 to 40 states this year have had Bitcoin strategic reserve bills introduced in them. Pennsylvania had one that died at the end of last year.
Do you mean strategic reserve? Like they're going to take portions of money and put it in Bitcoin as a fail-safe investment?
As an investment, like they do with the, like they do for pension funds and things like that.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. How cool, dude. That is interesting.
So.
Yeah, like you said, so we're at implementation. It's not too late. So basically, for me as a union guy, what you're telling me is let my union contribute to my S&P 500, and basically the only stock that I should buy, the only real investment I should buy, short of like a business or home and real estate and shit like that, is Bitcoin. And let my union just run its pension. Run the pension, buy Bitcoin on the side, and see which one pays off first.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I love that, dude.
Even you're getting at least public sector pensions are buying into Bitcoin now.
So my pension hall may just get into Bitcoin, and I wouldn't doubt it, being in the electricians union, that we do get into.
They could do a small thing.
Well, we're going to be building the farms, like we're going to be building the actual facilities. I'm sure, like, hey man, there's money in this, this is going to be a very interesting conversation in like the actual circles of the construction side of these sites, because they are generating a massive amount of money. So
I think what the Houston firefighters union has some in their pensions. Wisconsin might be doing a small amount in all of their public sector pensions. Maybe, like, this is something that is starting to come into the pension funds.
Yeah, and if we start buying Bitcoin now, when the pension funds get up there, like even if you're buying 1/10 of a Bitcoin or like 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin, you could. I mean, you're not going to get rich, but
buy $100 a month.
Yeah,
right?
fucking.
Just
Here's the thing.
dollar cost average. I mean, that's what I do. I don't have a ton, but
Here's the thing. Percentage of
I've got
growth
a
is
happy
percentage
amount.
of growth. So if you put
Yeah.
1,000 in or 100,000 in, the
doubling,
percentage it grows is the percentage it grows.
doubling.
So, it's not like I'm rolling in it from there, but I've been, for a couple of years contributing small amounts consistently on I just set it up. I go to Swan, you can go to Swan Bitcoin or River and say, I want to put $25 a week in and just let it
Auto
go.
generate.
Just auto buy same day, everything every week, just $25. And that, the dollar cost average strategy, you're not trying to time it. I mean, there's times where, you're thinking you're at a bottom, like, it ran up to, what was it, 70,000 a couple years ago, and then came back down to, I believe it bottomed at 15,000. And
the thing is, you can try to play that game with Bitcoin or any crypto where you think you're timing it right and guessing, but the fact is most people don't know what the fuck they're doing. And
nobody knows.
You're really gambling.
I looked at the chart. I looked at it on that, and I mean, I had a good suspicion on the last run we were gonna bottom at about 15.
Mhm.
So I may have increased how much I was buying or made some one-time buys of larger amounts at under 18,000, under 20,000, knowing that, hey, I'm calling the bottom here, and was fairly accurate for it.
Sure. It's also safe to say you know more than the average person though on Bitcoin.
Right. This is
So
something
what I'm
I've
saying
been
is for
looking
the
at.
average person who doesn't really know what they're doing, if you like what you were describing, if you do a consistent strategy where you're just putting in $100 a month or $200 a month or whatever, that's long term. You're probably going to be way better off than trying to time all these other separate coins.
Yeah, dropping 10 grand or something on a coin.
You're gonna be better off just doing a long term thing, because the chances are with Bitcoin that you're going to get a percentage of growth every year regardless.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the strategy, like you said, it's simple. So it's, buy from a trusted source. I wouldn't go. I mean, you could Coinbase if you want, but Swan or River are the two companies. Bull Bitcoin is another one. Basically, with Swan and River, I set it up. It buys. It holds there till I get a certain amount, and then I'll move it to cold storage, hardware wallet. We're not connected to the computer. Learn how to do that. Lock that away. Save your keys. That way, you're controlling it. That device or devices, if you're have a multiple signature system set up, so that it takes multiple devices to sign for it. That way, you have one at home. You put one somewhere. You geographically separate the other one. That way, you up your security a little
Fucking dead safe on Bitcoin is great. Yeah, you got to go to the bottom of the East Indian Ocean and get my cell phone out of the jar there. It's got my 10 billion Bitcoins in it, dude. Holy fuck. It literally is the dead switch on the guy when he dies, the bomb blows up, dude. That is awesome.
There's strategies for protecting it that
James Bond to get my Bitcoin, dude. It's hilarious.
But learn to properly secure it, hold it on a hardware device. Not a phone, something that's not connected to the internet that you have to plug it in order to sign for a transaction, and just send it there every so often, build that stack up. And, I think it's going to pay off well in the long run.
All right. Well,
you keep investing in that, and I'll keep investing in nosebleed stopper thingies and restaurants and.
No, buy Chewy and wine.
Hey,
Chewy and wine.
I've invested in so many random things.
Buy buildings and houses.
No.
Buy, open a business or buy real estate and Bitcoin.
We just sold a house. We had freaking 3 of them.
Private ownership is becoming a thing of the past, because I'm telling you, you can't outbuy BlackRock.
No. Yeah, with that being said, Nick, you want anything else before we get out of here, man? I just want to say we appreciate you for your time. As well as the information on the Bitcoin stuff in particular, but it's just cool to have other people on the program. We appreciate you for your time and that you making time for us. And more than anything, it's awesome to just reach out to other people in the space. So,
yeah, no, I've enjoyed being here, and had a slow start with the stressful technical issues I was having on my side here. I don't understand what was going on because that's
The government hates me, brother. The government hates me.
That's
The
got to be it.
government hates me.
But yeah, anyone watching, Liberty Libations has started, so go on over to peacefulc.net network and check that out if you want.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. As always, Dave Ryan, December 1773, here with Nick from Dollar Media Club. As always, David, I appreciate you most for your time.
Is that accurate, though?
What, Liberty Libations?
No, the Dollar Media Club. Is that right? I mean, I got it up there. Is that like the name of the?
Well, that's the
Peaceful C.
Yeah, Peaceful C.
I'm sorry,
Ryan, you're lying. You're lying to all our listeners.
I didn't read my my notes that I took here, David. Sorry. Yeah, Dave Ryan and Nick, December 1773, and PC. As always, I appreciate you guys for your time, especially you, David, and your CCP close network PS3 television stream. And I'll catch y'all later. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.